Hey y'all, it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden, and before we dive in, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a gardening friend. Okay, so I've been going through my garden, beginning to prep for the end of the season, looking ahead to spring, and I got to where I was like noticing particular plants that I was like, these are just really great plants that a lot of us just, don't really pay attention to, and they're not something that's like sought after. And so I came up with the idea of 5 most underrated plants in my garden that deserve more love. And so I just wanted to pull from a few parts during the season. I'm not only focusing on this season, I'm focusing on throughout the entire year. I'm really focusing on some plants that just don't get the love that they deserve. So I really want to help us appreciate classic, dependable plants that often get overlooked. And I want to share my personal value of them in my Texas Zone 8 garden. So this list is not about the flashiest flowers whatsoever. That is not this list. This list is about the most reliable and rewarding ones that deserve more attention within my garden. And really, when I start to think about these plants, it gets me thinking of where I can put them in other places to fill in spaces. I don't have a large garden, so I don't plant in massive drifts. Like I don't plant in 3s, 5s, and 7s because my garden's it's not big enough for something like that. I plant in a lot of singles, 2s, and 3s. And I think that a lot of times I get super excited about all the flashy plants and I want to do singles of all of those. And then things get a little bonkers, like a little crazy. And so I really think it's good to focus on some of these, more reliable plants that do a really great job creating a backdrop for some of the flashier plants. Okay, so when I'm going through these, we're going to talk about a series of categories for each one. Then we're going to talk about why it's underrated. We're going to talk about the appearance. We're going to talk about growing details, possibly some care tips mixed in, and we're going to talk about why I love that particular plant. Okay, number 1, Caryopteris, or also known as bluebeard or blue mist shrub. Why it's underrated. Often it's overlooked in nurseries or passed by for flashier shrubs that are a little bit more interesting throughout the entire year, but it's one of the best pollinator magnets in late summer. It's a great time of year when not a lot's going on. It's definitely not a shrub that's going to grow quickly or that's going to have its moment until like a single portion of the season. So its appearance, it is compact, deciduous shrub with silvery green aromatic foliage and clouds of soft blue to violet to pink flowers that appear in late summer through early fall. It's only about 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. It has a soft texture and dusty blue color that blends beautifully with warmer tones in the garden. It's an absolutely gorgeous shrub when it's in bloom. Growing details, it's hardy in zones 5 through 9, prefers full sun for best blooming, and it is drought tolerant once established and perfect for hot Texas gardens, and I cannot agree with that more. It always blooms at the hottest time of the year when nothing else wants to do anything, which is very cool. A quick care tip for Caryopteris: cut back hard in early spring. It only blooms off a new wood. I also will say I feel like its stems are kind of brittle, so they can snap pretty easily. So you don't want to really mess with it too much once it begins growing. So why do I love Caryopteris? It bridges the gap between summer and fall when many of my plants are fading, and it's just that time of year where, even my zinnias are tired, sunflowers are tired, everything's tired, but then Caryopteris really puts on a show, and it's such a unique looking bloom as well. Bees and butterflies adore it, and you'll often find that the pollinators are swarming it when little else is blooming. And I could walk out there right now to my Caryopteris and it will be covered in pollinators because they love it so much. I have a blue Caryopteris and a pink Caryopteris. The pink is by far my favorite. Both of them were just varieties that I picked up from a local garden show. There is a proven winners variety, a pink, that I would like to give a try and compare it to the pink that I currently have. And give it a try and see how it does. It does grow up and then slightly lean out, so I don't think it makes like this beautiful rounded shrub, but I that's fine for me. I don't mind if it's wonky and such. And then like I also said, I do feel like its branches are pretty brittle. So you want to put it in an area where you're not constantly sweeping by it, brushing against it, or where it might sustain some damage. Okay, number 2 on my list is Autumn Joy Sedum, also known as stone crop, and why it's underrated. It's common. It's very common. It's in all of the nurseries, but so few people realize how valuable and versatile it is in the garden. It can be planted in so many places, utilized in so many ways. It's a really great structure plant for any garden. Its appearance has thick, succulent leaves that form sturdy mounds in the spring, topped with broccoli-like buds that turn rosy pink and deep copper as the season cools. And it is in my opinion, it is a perennial plant that puts on a little bit of a quiet show throughout the entire growing season. And I absolutely love it. It's only about 18 to 24 inches tall with excellent structure. Growing details, it's hardy in zones 3 through 9, prefers full sun, tolerates light shade. It's very drought tolerant and prefers well-draining soil. A care tip for it, you can divide it every few years to keep clumps tidy, and you can leave dried flower heads for winter interest. I've divided mine multiple times and made multiple plants out of it. You could start with one plant and within 5 years probably have 7 to 9 plants from that one single plant. So it's definitely an opportunity to be a big cost saver, which is lovely as well. I wanted to try to propagate it as well. So that might be something I might try in the future. Why I love it. It is a powerhouse for texture and color shifts and pollinators. It does multiple things in the garden, but does them in a very quiet, soft way. I think it really forms a beautiful backdrop for a lot of different other plants. And like I said, it feeds that need for texture and lightness in the garden. It's great for its color shift because it's green and then it shifts into pinky rose and then finally into copper and then finally dried in the winter. So it plays a lot of different roles in color and texture throughout the season. And then it is always covered in pollinators. Now I have harvested it for some cut flower arrangements as well. It's not my favorite for a cut flower arrangement, but it is still pretty cool. It goes well with grasses, coneflowers, Rebecca, and it actually thrives in very poor soil. So that's something to consider. And it truly thrives on benign neglect. So I love it. You can totally neglect this and it's just going to keep going and going and going. Okay, number 3 on my list is daffodils or narcissus. So we're shifting more towards spring. And this is definitely a plant that you either love it or you hate it. A lot of people are like, oh, they're a waste. They don't last very long. You know, I don't want to plant the bulbs. It takes a long time. Daffodils are incredibly underrated and they're considered very basic. Why it's underrated? Often thought of as an ordinary spring bulb, quite frequently. That people are just like, daffodils, they're basic and they only want to put really flashy, exciting things in their garden. But daffodils are hardy and deer resistant and long lived. They quietly multiply and give cheer before much else is blooming. And I love daffodils in the fact that they herald the spring. They let me know that spring is finally here. Their appearance, they come in a wide range of forms from classic yellow trumpets, which happen to be my favorite, and creamy doubles with peach and pink centers. The foliage is upright and grassy, offering early season texture. And I actually do love the foliage until we get further into spring and then I'm over it. I want it to go away so I can focus on other things. And they're about 8 to 18 inches tall depending on what variety you end up choosing. And there are hundreds of varieties to choose from for daffodils. Growing details, they're hardy in zones 3 through 9, prefer full sun to part shade. They like moderate water well during active growth. So when they are putting on the leaves and when they are in bloom, you want to go ahead and water them well and then let soil dry once the foliage yellows. A care tip, and this is a super important one, plant bulbs 6 inches deep in the fall. Do not cut foliage. So when they start blooming and creating foliage in the spring, do not cut the foliage until it yellows naturally because the foliage is storing all that energy down into the bulb. And if you cut the foliage too quickly after blooming, it will not produce a bloom for the next season. Why I love daffodils. It's a sign of renewal, one of the first blooms after winter's rest. And once those daffodils start popping up, the joy that those little green sprouts bring to me as the leaves start poking through the soil and then these bright, cheerful flowers is unmatched. And it's always at the time of the year where there's nothing else really going on in the garden. Daffodils are pest proof and low maintenance, extremely low maintenance. They return even after years of neglect. So in my opinion, they're no fun to plant when you're initially planting the bulbs. But the fact that I can plant them and enjoy them for years and years to come, it's worth the time to plant them. So I definitely have a lot in my front garden that I think are getting to the point where they need to be divided. A lot of them have been in there 5 or 6 years. So I was thinking about as the next spring, as they grow, bloom, and then start to fade. When they start to fade, instead of just cutting them off and leaving them in the ground, I'm thinking about digging them up at that point in time and then being able to replant them in the fall. Daffodils are a gardener's best friend when you need effortless joy. And that is so true. It's not effortless in the very beginning, planting them in the fall, but after that, you can enjoy them for multiple years before having to deal with them again. Okay, number 4 on my list is climbing roses. I know that's surprising for a lot of people. Why climbing roses are underrated. Many gardeners avoid climbing roses thinking they're too fussy. But a lot of the modern varieties are surprisingly tough, especially in zone 8. Climbing roses add drama, they add romance, they add vertical interest that few other plants can actually create. So typically they're a little fussy, they're a little pricey, but once you get them in, like I said, there's just nothing that can match the vertical interest and beauty that they can add to your garden. I have several climbing roses in my garden. I wanted to touch on them. Currently have 4 climbing roses in my garden, and I would love to add additional ones, but I add them a little bit at a time, making sure that I have a correct structure in place to support them. So the climbing roses that I currently have in my garden, the first one is Don Juan climbing rose. It is a deep velvety red classic fragrance rose. It grows about 8 to 10 feet tall. It's hardy in zones 5 through 10 and is a repeat bloomer. So it blooms multiple times. Typically, I get a good flush in the spring, a little bit of a flush in the summer, and then another flush in the fall. It is a beautiful, deep, classic red rose that I'm obsessed with. It smells amazing. The next climbing rose that I have in my garden is America, and this is the first climbing rose that I ever put in, and it's a beautiful coral pink with a spicy scent to it. It is a very bold color. It is not soft and subtle, so let me be very upfront. I like bold color, but I know a lot of people don't. It grows about 10 to 12 feet tall. It's hardy in zones 5 through 10, and it blooms all through the season. So typically, every time I prune it back a little bit, it flushes another bloom. So it just continually blooms through from late spring in through fall. Now, if I don't cut it back, it'll take longer between bloom flushes. Okay, the next one is a new one in my garden, and it is Eden Climbing Rose, and it is a creamy pink with blush centers, about 10 to 12 feet tall, hardy in zones 5 through 9, and it is a true showpiece, and I planted it from bare root in late spring. I have not had a bloom cycle on it yet. It has grown at least 6 to 7 feet at this point from the bare root that I planted this last spring. And I do very much look forward to what it will do next year. And then also new in my garden this year, it's Zephyrin, which is a bright pink climbing rose, thornless. It has a strong old rose scent and grows about 8 to 12 feet tall. It's hardy in zones 5 through 9, and it's good for walkways and arches because it doesn't have thorns, so you don't have to worry about people brushing up against it. And I have my Eden on one side and my Zephyrin on the other, and they're climbing up over an arbor together. So both of them were planted from bare root at the same time. The Zephyrin, it's bigger. I would say it's about 8 to 9 feet tall at this point, but they're doing really good growing over the trellis. I definitely need to go in and spend some time securing these branches to the trellis as they're continuing to grow, but I really look forward to next spring and seeing how they do. So some general care tips for climbing roses. You want to feed with rose fertilizer in the spring and in midsummer. I always forget the midsummer. I really need to take time to just like put it in my calendar, my digital calendar, reminding me to go do that. You're going to provide a strong trellis or fence for support. My Don Juan rose is on a very cool old headboard, like a full-size headboard, a metal headboard, which is great. And that structure is strong enough. However, the way I secured the headboard to my house is not strong enough. So that is something I'm going to have to deal with this next spring. So take the time, make sure you put in a really strong structure prior to planting a climbing rose. You want to prune lightly after blooming to shape and encourage new canes. And why I love climbing roses. They transform vertical spaces into living art. That's exactly what they do. Even when they're not blooming, that green canes and leaves coming up, it's absolutely beautiful. They're so romantic and whimsical, and just you put them in your garden and they're like a fairy tale. Each one has its own personality, scent, and story. And I love that about roses, and I've gotten into growing more roses. I don't want to go too overboard. I did not add a bunch into my garden this year. I only added the 2 climbing roses because I wanted to see how different ones did, and I've been very happy with most of them. I love how each of them, look different, have different growing habits, and they all have a different scent. Okay, and number 5, last on my list of most underrated plants in my garden is Helen von Stein lamb's ear. And why it's underrated. Often it's used as a filler plant. It's just a basic filler plant, but this variety is more robust and elegant than people would expect in regards to lamb's ear. Its texture adds instant calm and cohesion to any border. It's available everywhere, but it's constantly passed over because it's not super flashy. Its appearance is large, soft, silvery leaves with a velvety touch, like plant velvet, like literally feels like velvet when you're touching it. It forms dense, tidy mounds around 8 to 10 inches tall and up to 24 inches wide. I would say mine gets a little higher than 8 to 10 inches tall. It is non-flowering or low flowering. Mine flowers every other year. Compared to other lamb's ear varieties, it stays nice and neat. Its growing details, it's hardy in zones 4 through 9, prefers full sun to part shade, and likes moderate to low water, dislikes soggy soil very much. I have it on the west side of my garden, and it gets full on nasty hot sun during the summer, and it just keeps right on going. It's not even affected by that at all. A care tip for Helen von Stein lamb's ear is to remove dead or wet leaves to prevent rot as well. And I quite frankly have to go in and pull out like handfuls of all the dead leaves because it will mound, and then at the center will be all of these leaves that get trapped. And so you have to pull and clean those out to help it out. It divides easily. I started with 1 plant that I then divided into 3 plants. And then I took another of those 3 plants and I divided that one into like another 7 plants. And so I have lots of it across my west side garden, and it is lovely. Why I love it: it's drought tolerant, it's low maintenance, and it's visually soothing in the garden, which I think is so important because a lot of times we can get really wrapped up in the flashy, bright, wow moments. But in reality, giving the eye an opportunity to rest and be soothed by a softer plant like Helen von Stein lamb's ear allows those flashier plants to become even more attractive. It's like a natural design anchor, the use of lamb's ear, in my opinion. It's perfect along paths, around the base of roses, and as a soft underplanting for bolder plants. And I utilize it as a front border on a lot of my west side garden. It is a humble but essential supporting actor that makes other plants look better. And that soft, silvery, kind of pale green color, or blue-green color, I should say, is so unusual in the garden that it sets off lots of other plants. Okay, why underrated plants matter? Like, why do these plants matter? It's easy to choose the rare and the exotic plants. But these plants remind me that true garden beauty comes from balance. You can't go all in one direction. You need your moments of wow, but you need your moments of soothing peace. The dependable, the resilient, and the quietly stunning. These are the plants that keep my gardens grounded even when the stars of the show begin to fade, especially at this time of year when things are just hot and tired. There's moments where that lamb's ear really steps up, right? And then at the beginning, before, spring comes, the daffodils come about when nothing else is happening in the garden, and they give that moment of reprieve from the long, dark winter. So these plants really have their moments that fill the in-between seasons, that fill the in-between spots. And if I didn't have them in the garden, I'm not sure that I would enjoy my garden as much as I do, because these plants support the other plants and the other moments in my garden so well. Okay, comments. So I'm going to do this one a little bit different. I want you guys to drop your comments of the most underrated plants in your garden. I want you to tell me what the plant is, why you love it, and I want to know your zone that you're growing it in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a video, and I'm going to probably take 10 of your comments. I'm going to do more research and thorough study on your suggested plant, and then I'm going to present your comments, your most underrated plants in a separate video. So it will be my subscribers' most underrated plants. So I'm going to choose 10. But once again, make sure you put what the plant is, why you love it, and what zone you're in. And remember, this is about underrated plants. This isn't about big, flashy wow moments. Underrated plants that we typically would skip over. Okay, so I'm kind of excited because I get a lot of really good comments. I have a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge and put some really great comments in my videos. And so I would love the idea of every once in a while taking some of those comments and thoroughly exploring a lot of them in some videos that are geared towards the subscribers' comments. So I think this will be a really fun opportunity. I'll put your name up there, that you're the one who provided that one, and I think it'll be really fun to approach that video. It'll probably come out next week to 2 weeks. All right, you all. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I thought it was fun. Just when I was looking around the garden, I just really started to think about these plants that I don't typically pay that much attention to, but mean a whole lot within my garden. And so this kind of just naturally came about. As always, make sure you like and comment in the video. Every time you like and comment, it helps grow the video and my channel so much. And if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, just drop me an emoji below, letting me know that you made it to the end of the video and you say hi. And be sure to check me out in my Patreon community. The link is in the video description below. It is all things She's a Mad Gardener, all things gardening. We chat every day about gardening, which is great. There's a free tier you can join in under, and I am making a transition for them starting in the month of November, where I will only have one paid tier. I currently have 2 different paid tiers, and I've talked a lot with my current patrons, and I don't like that I have to remember this person gets this and this person. I don't like that. So we're just going to have a free tier and then a tier that gets all the things. It's just way easier for me. So starting in November, I will have that single tier available. So if you just want to take a look and join as a free member for now and then see what happens come November, I'll have that just single tier available, and that single tier will get exclusive videos only available to patrons, and we'll get live, participate in lives, and we're been trying a lot of different formats so that we can all talk to each other, which is great. They get to be involved in the chats, the group chats, and photo sharing, which is great as well. All right, you all, as always, she's a mad gardener or decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.